What is going on, 49er fans? We are here today on this Friday to talk about some of the things going on in 49ers land as free agency is pretty much come to an end. You get little signings trickling in here or there, but I think this now has us back to being focused on the draft and also kind of focused on the situation that's going on with Brock Purdy. I, for one, am a fan of not having to discuss these things if we don't have to, but I'm sure you guys have already heard Mike Garafolo go on to the NFL Network yesterday and say some things that I think kind of had everyone's ears perk up a little bit. I'll tell you why they're perked up if you maybe don't see it or maybe don't understand, or if you didn't even hear it. We'll address it. Um, this interesting stat came up about George Kittle that almost has me asking the question, which is something that I've believed for a while, but is George Kittle just underutilized? Do the San Francisco 49ers really need to just start treating George almost as if he's wide receiver one, especially with question marks around Brandon Ayuk and what his health looks like? Jawan Jennings, phenomenal. Ricky Pearsall ascending. But is it time to get George Kittle the rock way more than he gets now? We'll talk about that. And do the 49ers have a secret weapon on their defensive line that maybe they're a little bit more confident in? Hey, we'll find out. We're going to discuss it all right now on today's show, but you guys already know what to do. Drop a SDS in the chat, smash that like button, and let's get into it all right meow. Smash that like button if you haven't already. Love to see it. Shout out to the Bread Gang dropping in the building. Hopefully you guys are having a phenomenal Friday. And I do think there are some things to discuss around the San Francisco 49ers. And I think the biggest one obviously has us back to the conversation of Brock Purdy. Because I don't know, I'm curious. You can let me know in the comments below if you agree or not. But I do think that there was a notion that a lot of fans believed that the Brock Purdy negotiation was going to be quick, smooth, and painless. If you were one of those people, and I don't blame you at all, but if you were, let me know in the chat, or if you were on the opposite side of the situation, where you're like, well, we've kind of seen how key players in negotiations have had to kind of fight and claw their way through the negotiation to get it done, whether it's Nick Bosa, Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, George Kittle, etc. So that leads us to the situation with Brock. And I think if you saw what or listened to what Mike Garafolo had said on the NFL Network, I think, and this is just my opinion, but after listening to it, it feels like Garafolo is not speaking on technically, I guess. It almost feels like Garafolo was speaking on behalf of someone. I doubt that it's Brock Purdy directly, but I think in these moments, it could definitely be an agent who is kind of sharing information to NFL Insider. This is common practice when it comes to negotiations, at least with the San Francisco 49ers in covering the 49ers. It goes both ways. 49ers will, communicate through the media, and then you will have agents communicate through the media. Example one, Adam Schefter going on the Pat McAfee show, laying out the detailed plan of, well, the 49ers could force Brock Purdy to play out on the last year of his rookie deal. And then they could tag him 2 years in a row after that. That total value comes to 97 million. That's what they could do. They have potentially 3 years of team control. And when I heard Adam just kind of going through this scenario, I was kind of like, hmm, that sounds like he's in the room with the San Francisco 49ers. I was like, oh, that's an interesting kind of, he totally could have came up with that on his own. But the way that he kind of prefaced it and explained it, and I was like, oh, that sounds like you're in the negotiation room on behalf of the 49ers. Interesting. And then yesterday, Garofolo coming out talking about the percentage of franchise quarterbacks taking up cap space and what that figure looks like and what that typically comes out to. And that would be, I think he said that if they were in the range of $21 to $26 million for their franchise quarterback against the current cap, it would have came out to around like 68 million or something like that. And so Brock and his age, they're not asking for that. They want to come in under deck. So, but it sounds like whatever they're angling for, at least according to Garofolo, sounds like it's above Trevor Lawrence, above those guys. And I think that's one of the conversations that we have had about this negotiation that makes it challenging, is that unfortunately the previous quarterbacks have blown up the market. Blame the Cowboys, blame Trent Baalke, blame the Packers, blame those people for overpaying their quarterbacks. And so as a result of that, of overpaying them, it has ballooned the quarterback market. And now there's this like weird like limbo land where, how does Brock fit into that mix? Where does he slot? Where does he land? Where do the 49ers feel comfortable paying? Where do Brock and his agent want to be? I talked about this on the video yesterday. The Josh Allen contract, I think, makes this an interesting conversation within the media, because Josh Allen got 55 million per year and people see that and they're like, "Oh, that's that means Brock should probably take less." But it is important to note that Josh Allen got the highest guaranteed money in NFL history. And so again, when we talk about contracts, it gets funneled down to APY because APY is such an easy thing to talk about, but APY is such an easy thing to manipulate as well. That's why it comes down to guaranteed money that makes the most sense in this situation. So I don't know. When I listen to Garofolo talk about this, and he kind of goes on and on about, you know, Brock and what Brock is worth and what Brock is likely asking for. I mean, this is one of the key sentences to me that makes me feel like this was being told to him. Brock wants his respect and he wants his money that's in line with those other quarterbacks. I honestly can't imagine Brock saying something like that. Like, I need my respect. I need you to pay me and respect me. However, I don't believe that the notion of wanting respect is crazy. I think that a lot of these negotiations do come down to that element, respect. Like we've heard, right? When the rumor came out that Brock Purdy was offered 45 per year, what was said? Oh, that's disrespectful. Like Diana Rossini came out and said if he was offered 45 million per year, that would be disrespectful, right? So there is a respect element to it based on where you slot because that's just how it works. I spoke to Patrick Mahomes' agent at the Super Bowl, asked him about how contracts work. He said you take the resume and you slot it and you compare it to the other quarterbacks who have been paid on the market. That's how you determine the value in a very simplified way. That's how it comes. That's how you figure it out. You take the resume and you slot it into what the other quarterbacks are being paid. So it's a fascinating time because not only do I think we have a varying range of perceived value of Brock Purdy, but we also have this in the midst of the 49ers telling us point blank period that we're in the midst of a roster reset. So that's one of the things that I think, being objective, not having ties to Brock, not having ties to the 49ers, taking everything away, any potential biases away, and just trying to objectively look at the situation. I'm struggling with the idea of how it logically makes sense for a team to be willing to pay a quarterback top 5 money amidst a roster reset. Does that make sense? Like kind of what I'm getting at? Meaning like they're stripping the roster down. They're cutting guys where they maybe don't necessarily need to cut guys. They're just kind of getting rid. They cut the long snapper. They cut Malik Collins. They cut. We understood Javon Hargrave was coming, but they cut Leonard Floyd, all guys that they they maybe didn't need to cut because it didn't really save a bunch of money, at least from my understanding. So it just kind of comes down to it's like, well, if they're in the midst of a roster reset, this kind of goes back to what John Lynch was talking about just recently, basically saying that, we're we're changing the way we have to do things. We were pouring in and pouring in and pouring into the roster, spending money, bringing in free agents. They thought they had a Super Bowl caliber roster last year and it didn't happen. And so now they're resetting. So what does that mean? Does that mean they believe that this team as it's currently standing a Super Bowl caliber roster? If it's not, does it make sense to pay Brock Purdy Brock Purdy as a top 5 quarterback? Um, while the roster is kind of flipping over. I don't know. I don't have a good feeling about any of this. Now, regardless of my feeling and what I think and what I perceive, I don't know what's going to happen. There's a chance that Brock gets paid, kumbaya, we put it in the past, we move forward, 49ers go out, compete, et cetera, et cetera. And obviously there's another additional ranges of outcomes um, that come along with this. But I will say that based on how things are coming across, and I really do think that they don't want this to be a big drama fest like last year, because it was crystal clear that Brandon Ayuk's negotiation impacted everyone. Everyone. Fans, players, probably coaches, and front office. It impacted everyone. It was so tumultuous that it absolutely impacted every single person involved. I remember at the peak of the Brandon Ayuk trade drama, it was 8-7 day at 49ers training camp. I think it was the final day that was open to the public. And that is also the day where they bring out the alumni. They bring out a lot of high profile, former Niners and invite people. It's a big deal. And it was at the height of the BA drama. It was arguably the worst 49ers training camp practice that I have ever witnessed with my two eyeballs. And I've been covering as many training camp practices as I can for I think this was my 4th season. I'd never seen uh a training camp practice so just off. And that's the thing is anyone who's played football understands that each individual practice has its own energy. There are practices where you come out and everyone's flying around, everyone's aggressive, everyone's hyped up. And there are also practices where you come out and everyone's flat, everyone's dull, there's no energy. It's like everyone somehow is in this same vortex. So the point that I'm trying to make is that negotiation really impacted a lot, I do believe, on the heels of a uh, tough loss in the Super Bowl, right? So I don't think they want to do that again. I don't think they want to have anything that's public. I think they're really trying to walk the line here. But kind of what I'm gathering from the Garofalo situation back to the Adam Schefter thing is I don't know how close they are. I really don't. Um and I don't know what that means. I don't know what that means moving forward. Obviously, I can tell you the ranges of outcomes that could come from that. But I just don't know, man. I wish I knew better. Like I wish I had a better sense of where things were so I could, maybe share optimism because that's one of I think the hardest parts about me and my coverage is I do like to cover this team from an optimistic lens. Like I like to believe that you can look at a situation and you can spin it to be negative. You can look at it, you can see that there are positive outcomes that can come from this as well, you know. I don't like to be doom and gloom. It's just not my vibe. It's not how I like to talk about football because football there's so many variables that it can truly go either way. Like this situation with the 49ers current roster, it might look doom and gloom, but there really is a world that exists that somehow, the 49ers figure this thing out, get rejuvenated, get healthy, kill the draft, and they surprise a lot of people this upcoming season. But I don't know what to believe with the Brock situation. So, if you guys have been following along this off season, I really haven't tried to talk about it that much just because there's no point unless something comes up. Um, unless there's something pertinent that kind of sparks our interest to be like, oh, this deserves a conversation. So the point of this long-winded situation is I don't know. I have no idea where this thing is headed. And honestly, I don't have a great feeling about it. I hope that that changes. I hope that, um, you know, because I don't want to see Mac Jones as the 49ers quarterback next year. It's like that is the furthest thing from the reality and range of outcomes that I want to see. And my hope is that they could get something done and move forward because I do believe they could win with Brock. And even with this current roster, I do think they could get it done. Um, but I don't know. There's a lot of new things that are going on with the 49ers right now that we can't track and say, "Oh, this mirrors the trends of how the 49ers have done business since Kyle and John took over." It does feel like there is a strong shift that is happening based on the previous trends that we've witnessed where the 49ers have been willing to spend, have been willing to bring in guys, and that is a clear shift. And so is there also a clear shift in other elements as well, including negotiation? Um, I don't know. It's just I just prefer clarity on this situation rather than just constantly speculating what range of outcome we think is actually going to happen. But Silence says 8 years and only one all pro player drafted along the O line and D line. Do you think there's a bigger problem with coaching or drafting? Why no changes there? Ooh, this is a great question that can definitely spark, I think, a strong conversation. Um, when I'm looking at the O line and the D line just right now and how it's constructed, you have Dominic Pooney. I do believe Dominic Pooney has all pro potential. So he's not an all pro yet. And it might take, 2 or 3 more years for him to, build up that hype to be able to acquire that. But I do think Dominic Pooney is one of the better draft picks on the offensive line that they've made uh, in their tenure. Now, I had mentioned, I tweeted about this in real time. I was not a fan of the Spencer Burford pick. That was the draft where I was all in on Zach Tom, who is currently the starting right tackle for the Green Bay Packers and is arguably one of the best offensive linemen uh, in the league right now. And so I was banging the table for the 49ers to take Zach Tom in the fourth. They ended up taking Spencer Burford. I tweeted out, I was like, I don't understand this pick. This doesn't feel like it matches like what the 49ers do. It doesn't feel like it didn't feel like a 49ers offensive lineman. Now Spencer Burford might start this year, might have an opportunity to start this year, but I'm sure the 49ers would be feeling a lot better about this roster construction if Zach Tom was on this roster right now. Um, so you know, I can't. I wasn't a fan of Aaron Banks. I wanted Quinn Miners. Quinn Miners is an All Pro. So I'm not going to sit here and say, that I know what's going on in the 49ers process. I've also liked guys that haven't turned out too. So I'm not sitting here saying that I'm perfect and I'm better at drafting offensive line than the 49ers. But um, you know, I do think that it is something that they need to continue to keep swinging. I think that's the thing that has been a struggle with the 49ers when building their offensive line is they kind of they strike me as being complacent unless they know a player's leaving in free agency the next year, then they will draft someone. So I think they need to draft more offensive linemen. I think they really need to take more shots at trying to get second or third round, especially on the interior. Just take more shots. Like, just make sure that you have the best offensive line possible. Has always been like I've always said, if I were to build a team and I were to have that saying power, I would have the best offensive line, period. And that doesn't mean that would come without misses. There's probably a chance I would miss on players that I would take, but I would keep swinging until I found the best offensive line possible. And right now, or at least what I kind of noticed of the 49ers process on O line is they are fine with plug, like whether it's Mike Persons at right guard, whether it's, I don't know, Laken Tomlinson, who was kind of a reject by the Detroit Lions, who turned out to be decent, pretty decent for the 49ers. Um, you could say Colton McKivitz is in that category. You could say Jake Brendel's in that category. Um, you could say Brunskill was in that category of guys who are serviceable, who but might not be the best, and they are okay with the serviceable because they're cheap and they get the job done without having to spend all that much. So I don't personally agree. Like that wouldn't be my approach. Um, my approach would be swing until I got the best starting five on the offensive line. Defensive line, um, DJ Jones was solid in the 6th round. He's not here anymore. He got paid. I've always liked Kevin Givens as an undrafted free agent. I think he's solid. Evan Anderson as an undrafted free agent is solid. I thought Drake Jackson had an upside when the 49ers drafted him, so I wasn't upset at that pick. I knew he was raw. That was one of my draft evaluations of Drake was that he is super raw. Like when it comes to pass rush moves, when it comes to technique, like he had the athletic upside, but technically he was not an NFL player. So we knew it was going to take some time for him to develop, but that's why for me, I'm always critical on being able to identify prospects who have high level technique. And I will take high level technique over physical traits any day of the week. And that is the exact thought process that went into the difference of Spencer Burford's evaluation and Zach Tom's evaluation. Spencer Burford is prototypical in a physical form. He is a huge, quick, fast, strong offensive lineman. But Spencer Burford coming out of college was raw. He did not have good feet in the sense of technique. He just didn't have good technique. It's the reason why I said uh that I don't believe he's a tackle. He's a guard. And I got a lot of pushback on that. And then the reason why I was big on Zach Tom was because Zach Tom was so technically advanced as an offensive lineman that I knew that he would be able to overcome any potential physical limitations because he was so technically advanced and he was fast. So that's why I pushed back on the Burford pick. That's why honestly, I scouted Burford and I turned off the tape. I was like, this isn't a guy the 49ers should be interested in. I was like, and for the reasons I explained, I got through half a film session of him and I turned it off. I said, this doesn't fit the mold of what I would assume the 49ers would want. I assumed they would want Zach Tom, but it flipped. They went Burford. Packers go Tom. So I can't speak to, their philosophy when it comes to scouting and the decisions that they make. I can only speak to my preference, um, because my preference is very defined in what I'm looking for in offensive linemen, whereas I have no idea what that preference is for the 49er scouts or what they're looking for or things of that nature. But I do feel like I have a pretty strong checklist of things that I feel you need to be good at in order to be a good offensive lineman. Now, it doesn't mean I'm going to hit all the time on that. And sometimes you make, adjustments to the rule and it doesn't always pan out. Same goes for me. Same goes for them. That's why scouting is an imperfect science. Um, you could think you have the perfect can't miss prospect, and he falls flat on his face. Happens all the time. Cam's dad says if no Brock deal, he should hold out. He should hold out or play at 5 million. Um, I would imagine if that's the conversation, he's holding out. I just I have a hard time seeing Brock playing for 5 million because if I'm not mistaken, I don't have the number in front of me, but I think next year if Brock were to play on his rookie deal, I think Mac would be making more than him. I could be misspeaking on that. Um, but it could it could be something. So, but I would say that there would be a holdout before he plays for his rookie deal, for sure. So, we'll see. I just got an interesting text. Hold on a second. I gotta do a little hunting real quick. All right. Oh, I see. I see. I see. Sorry. Hold on 1 second. I'm doing a little bit of investigative research at the moment. I will clue you in to what I'm doing in 1 second. It's nothing crazy. It's nothing crazy. But it is interesting. And I want to get to the bottom of it. So hold on 1 second. I know that this isn't very entertaining, but let me just figure this out. All right, I'll circle back to this so that we don't spend the whole time watching me figure this out. But I'll tell you eventually. Let's switch gears a little bit. Let's switch gears. Do we need to get George Kittle the ball more? I think we do. I think this is the year that we absolutely get George Kittle the ball more. I mean, when you stack his numbers compared to Brock Bowers, and Brock Bowers somehow got crowned. Now, no disrespect to Brock Bowers. Brock is a generational tight end prospect. I've never been more impressed by a tight ends film than Brock Bowers coming out. I couldn't believe it. He's absolutely a generational prospect, and his rookie season, he absolutely produced. But let's take a look at the comparison. Last year, George Kittle had 78 receptions on 94 targets. Brock Bowers had 112 receptions on 153 targets. That is insane how many more targets Brock Bowers got. But here's the kicker. George Kittle still put up 1,106 yards receiving. Brock Bowers put up 1,194. Not even 100 more yards receiving than Kittle on that many targets, on that many receptions. And Kittle had 8 touchdowns compared to Brock Bowers' 5 touchdowns. The efficiency is fantastic. But I do think it might be time to force feed George Kittle the football. Can we do that? Can we figure out how to get George the ball thrown his way over 120? I'll take 120 targets. I'll take 120 targets. It doesn't even have to be 150. I'll take 120, maybe 125. Just give him a shot, man. Give Kittle a shot to get the ball more, and I think good things will happen. Like, come on. Get this guy the ball. Yes, he's a phenomenal blocker. But get the ball into his hands, man. Like, I think that's kind of one of the things that I want to see from Kyle Shanahan and the evolution of his offense is get away from like, oh, well, we gotta do this and we gotta, bend to the defense. The defense is like, okay, last year that didn't work. So I'm fine with a little force feeding. Like, let's dial it up specifically for someone. Like, not that that doesn't happen. And again, I'm super simplifying the assessment of Kyle Shanahan's offense last year. I apologize, Kyle. It's not what I'm trying to do. From a high level perspective, high level standpoint, get him the ball. Just get him the ball. Figure it out. Tight end screens. I don't care. Slants, go routes, corner post. I don't care. Just figure out how to get him the ball. Get the ball into your playmaker's hands. Give him a chance. Force feed him. That's what I want. I mean, George is a Hall of Fame tight end, man. A walking Hall of Famer. A guy who deserves more opportunities. And I think he doesn't get the ball enough. I think he needs the ball more. So I do think he's a little underutilized. I'm not gonna lie. I think that there are opportunities to be able to get George the ball more. I would love that. Now, double-edged sword. I think on this play specifically, I think George like broke a rib or something. I think he got significantly injured here. Like, I remember him talking about that. But still, injured or not, get him the ball more. I would love to see him get the ball more. Also, do we have a secret weapon on our hands? A lot of people talking, of course. Shocking to see the internet disagree with something. But I came across this video. I saw Sam Okiwanu, just repping out 405 pounds, back squat, perfect form, with ease. I'm like, it just got me thinking. I'm like, could Sam O, as we call him, could he be headed for a big year this year? Could he be in a position to take a big jump? Because he is also a raw player. He's a guy that didn't grow up playing football. He was late to football. And I think that he could absolutely be a guy that could take steps forward and strides forward. And as the current construction of the 49ers defensive line stands, that will have to be the case. He will have to play more. He absolutely will, because he might be the starting defensive end right now. Very well could be. And it's funny how I love when people are watching someone rep weight and then compare it to single rep maxes like it's the same thing. It's funny to me, because if you can see someone repping out 405 like this with perfect form, getting to depth and just repping it, that's not their max. Their max is, like, I guarantee you he could probably max 600 pounds with a 1 rep max based on this with what we're watching. People have a hard time of contextualizing things because they just think that something's not impressive when they don't know how to truly contextualize things. Like, oh, well, quarterback Jalen Hurts squats 600. It's like, okay, well, I think they're the same size, damn near. I think they're both 6'1". So is it that crazy? It's I'm not I'm not s- I'm not speaking specifically to you, James. I'm more speaking to other comments that I've gotten um, on the videos. That's all. It wasn't I just saw you say it, but I wasn't necessarily directed at you because you weren't one on one comparing the situation. I think it's funny sometimes. But I do think Sam O could absolutely be a guy that the 49ers play quite a bit next year and could definitely take a bigger role. Last year, he played over 450 snaps, and that could probably take a pretty significant jump up this upcoming season. He still uh, turned in 3 sacks. He had 17 quarterback hurries. So I don't know if he's going to be your base down guy, but he could definitely be a situational pass rusher for sure. So we shall see. Chat GPT says we will win next season. I hope we get a win next season. And I hope Chat GPT's right. Let's see. What did I see? Question. Can Tig have a bounce back year in 2025? Absolutely, he can. Absolutely. Um, Tig, I think his main problem is processing right now. Whereas I saw Talanoa Hufanga come in and prove to me he could play right away because he was processing everything so fast. He knew exactly where everything was going to be. And as a result of that, he put himself in the position to make the plays. Where I'm watching Tig struggle is the opposite of that. It feels like he is not processing fast enough, or he's unconfident or unsure, and as a result of that, he's putting himself out of position to make plays, whether taking bad angles, um, bad coverage, whatever. I think he's at a point where he's not thinking super clearly, in the sense of just trying to like process the information. So if Tig can speed it up and he can get to that level of processing, I absolutely think he can bounce back for sure. I think he has the talent and I think he has the mental makeup to do so. I just think he's got to see it. He's got to see it faster. He's got to be confident in his ability. He's got to get after it. That's really what it my per, my perceived issue with him at this point. Justin says, Brad, I want to hear more about AO Manor. I've been watching him. What do you want to know? Um, I was pretty surprised by how much the 49ers were involved in his pro day. I think there's a notion that, oh, well, John Lynch always goes to the Stanford pro day, which I'm sure is absolutely true. But this particular draft, they have a wide receiver prospect who is pretty talented and can absolutely make plays and who is young. Like, he is a redshirt sophomore. He's only 21 years old. So he has a lot of football left in front of him. And I mean, I'm sure you guys saw some of the videos that I posted of this guy. He's got one of the crazier like shoulder builds I've seen on a wide receiver in a while. Um he's he's big. 6'2", all of that type of stuff. So he strikes me as more of like a possession style wide receiver. Um, not like super quick, but he looks like he has phenomenal hands and could absolutely be a guy. Uh, but like look at the traps. I'm like, dang, dude. Like, all right. So Uh, they're very interested, man. Like John Lynch and Leonard Hankerson were. You see how he kind of looks at the camera and he talks. He was talking to Leonard Hankerson. John and Hankerson were right behind me. Like when I tried to, they were behind that guy. So we were in the same spot. He's gonna talk. That's when Leonard said, "Hey, great job, Alec," and he said, "Thank you, appreciate you." And then that was John Lynch and Leonard Hankerson. So you know, he's an interesting prospect. He's an interesting prospect for sure. He's definitely shown some good things on film. Um, he's definitely not going to be one of these guys who's going to be a burner. He's a 4-4 guy. Uh, but you know, we'll see. But I do know that John Lynch was very interested. John and Leonard were very interested in him. And it wasn't just because they were doing him any favors. So, I don't know. Is he a second rounder? Is he a third rounder? I think the 49ers would jump on him if they could get him in the third. I don't know if they will take I don't know if they will take him at 43, but because they have to go D line, but they could take him in the third if he's still there, or if they trade back and get some other picks. I could see wide receiver two or wide receiver potentially being a target in the second round. Um, doesn't necessarily means it's him, but I think they like him. I really do. I think they really do. Larry says John's comment did not sit well with me. You are you asking me um what I thought his comments indicated? I don't It's not that they didn't sit well with me because I honestly don't think he really said anything that was like earth shattering because he kind of alluded to all of this situation playing out at the combine and it's played out as such. Um to me, I don't the thing that doesn't sit well with me is that it doesn't feel like they're necessarily making football decisions. What doesn't sit well with me is it feels like they're like, we're trying to cut costs, we're trying to save money, which I can rationalize and understand. And it's a look ahead to the future and having to make sure you have a roster that you can field beyond just now. It's also a forward looking mentality. And they clearly, like he mentioned, he wants that flexibility. I'm having a hard time seeing how this process is going to help contribute to winning. Like trading Jordan Mason, that wasn't a move done to win. They didn't even win the trade. And you can convince yourself that they won the trade, but they did not win the trade. They literally moved him so that they didn't have to pay him. That was the only reason that trade was done. They did not win that trade. Um, Now I can understand the logic of not paying him, that being Jordan Mason, but I don't understand the logic of taking a hit on a player and taking an L in trade value just to move a contract. So those are the things that I don't love. And Mason was not a UDFA, he was a RFA. They had team control. So they did not win that trade. They literally sent a pick with Mason. They did not win that trade. It was a 5th round pick swap, and they added a 6th next year. That is not a win. That does not help you win this season. So I don't agree with that. Just because you get some value for an undrafted player doesn't mean you won the trade. I think that's what a hard thing that people are having trouble with is that just because he wasn't a drafted player, which means it was an investment that you got a return on because you didn't draft him, you didn't give up capital, you signed him as a free agent and you traded him right for a return. That logic doesn't mean you won the trade. That logic means you got a return on Mason. You got something for Mason, who was an undrafted free agent. That doesn't mean you got the best value for him. That doesn't mean that you got what you could have traded him for to potentially someone else. You didn't get a 5th for him. You got a 5th round value, which people need to recognize. You gave a 5th. You gave a 5th to get a 5th. You jumped up, what, 25 spots, 24 spots, and you got a 6th round draft pick. That isn't a good return on a player who was your leading rusher last year and at one point was the leading rusher in the NFL. So people can talk to me all the time. Well, you when I saw that the Vikings said it was a 5th. Vikings said it was a 5th. They posted their little graphic. Was their graphic wrong? Let me see. Because when they had announced, yeah, this is what they announced. So was it wrong? It says Jordan Mason, 5th round pick, 187th overall for a 5th round pick, 160, which is a pick swap, and a 2026 6th rounder. No one is saying that. Oh, it says it right there. 187 is in the 6th round. Graphic is incorrect. Okay. Okay. So I'll give you that. However, it doesn't change that it was still a pick swap for however many spots up. I don't perceive this trade to be a win at all. And to each their own. If you think it's a good trade, fair enough. You're saying that because he was an undrafted free agent, you got a pick of 5th round value in return based on it being a 20 some odd move and a pick swap. Remember, you set a pick with Mason for a 6th and the 5th. You can tell me the point value charts of Jimmy Johnson, all of that. That to me is a gross trade. I don't like it. I don't. You can tell me about what Jimmy Johnson's chart says. You can tell me what the value of a 6th, 5th round pick swap plus a 26th pick. I don't like it. We can agree to disagree on that one. I just don't like it. I don't like the value. I don't like I think Jordan Mason would be better suited on the team, and you could have renegotiated his contract to be less than that 5 million and change tender hit. And I think you could have made that work. I don't like the move. I don't like the move because I don't see it as a great value add. Just doesn't make sense to me. And again, it all depends on your perspective. If your perspective is he was an undrafted free agent, therefore you got something that's a win, I disagree. Because if you have a valuable undrafted free agent, like it doesn't matter where they came from. Hall of Famers have been undrafted. Um, that would, the counterpoint to the UDFA comment is like, okay, well, what if Brock Purdy was an undrafted free agent? The 49ers signed him and they traded him for a 5th, 6th round pick swap. would we be saying, oh, that was a good move because he was an undrafted free agent? No, we wouldn't be. And again, they're different players, different positions, whole lot of different situations with that. My point is the logic uh, of saying that it's a good move just because he was an undrafted free agent. I don't love the value. I don't mind the trade. I don't love the value. I'll die on that hill. Silent says realistically, minimum 2 years until truly competitive. What do they absolutely have to accomplish with the 25 draft class to set up for 26? I would say they have to hit on 3 defensive linemen, they have to hit on one offensive lineman, one linebacker, and ideally one cornerback or safety. They have to find 6 solid contributors, probably 4 to 5 starters as rookies. And I mean that might be asking too much. I would probably say 4 starters. 4 starters, 4 contributors right away. 4 starters, 4 contributors right away. And the uh majority of them are uh defensive line starters. I think they need 2 defensive tackle starters. They need at least a rotational edge who's in the starting rotation. I don't know if they're going to have a starting offensive lineman or not, but I think they need to keep drafting for the future on the offensive line regardless. I think they need to draft a linebacker, a starting linebacker. So it's a tough task for this front office. I mean, it's a solid draft, I think, to be able to find those guys in the middle rounds. Like you can definitely find some sleepers in this class. But it's definitely going to be challenging. They have to come away with starters and impact starters. If they're gonna run it back with Brock and George, they're for sure going to have to have like 4 rookie starters on defense, which tough task. Tough task. I don't envy them. I don't envy the decisions that they have to make because that is going to be a challenge for sure. Uh, Larry says, but no value whatsoever. Picks for him, no way. I see Melvin said Brad is just upset about the Mason trade, but watch Isaac tear it up next season. I thought they were going to trade Jordan Mason. I think when it was announced that he was tendered, I think one of the things that I had mentioned was this is probably going to open up the door for him to get traded because they could, even though they tendered him, I was like, they can still trade him. Like they can still trade him and get out of this contract. So I'm not necessarily upset at the trade. I'm upset because I don't love the value of the trade. And clearly, some people have a very rigid belief in what that value should be. And I respect that opinion because it ties to Jimmy Johnson's trade chart and it ties to those things. And so people are going to be using that. And I know people in the league use that trade chart to assign points and to assign value and all of it. But even in when you do that exercise, it still comes out as a wash. Like I'm not a fan of losing trades. To me, a wash in a trade is a loss. I don't like that. That's not how I would. And I'm not a GM. Look at where I'm sitting. So I'm not saying that's me, but I don't like that. That's not something where um, I look at that and be like, yeah, I feel good about that. But I'm also probably higher on Jordan Mason. So I probably have a perception of him that I think he's maybe better than what people believe he's worth. And that's fine as well too. Beauty is in the eye of the beholder, right? So, but I do believe Isaac is solid. So, like, I'm not upset about that. Isaac Guerrero is going to be a great RB2. Patrick Taylor, I think, is super underrated. And I want to see what Israel Bonaconda can do. And then this is a great draft to draft another running back. So I like that as well. So the 49ers have Christian McCaffrey, you have Isaac Guerrero, you draft another running back in the third or fourth round, you have Patrick Taylor, you have Israel Bonaconda. They will be fine. They are not going to miss Jordan Mason. I just would have preferred they did not send a pick with Jordan Mason. If you would have said we got Jordan Mason for a fifth and a 26 sixth, I would be much more pleased with the value of that trade. The fact that they sent a pick, I just doesn't sit well with me. I don't like it. I don't like it. And I'm allowed to not like it. We'll get through this, guys. I promise. What did he say? Brad, if Mason balls out, I told you so. Brad, if he ends up stinking in Minnesota, still didn't win the trade. See, the problem is if Mason goes to the Minnesota Vikings and becomes a top 10 running back, and you look back on this trade, I can guarantee you we'll bring this back up, and fans are gonna be like, wait a second. We traded Mason and a fifth for just a fifth and a sixth. So for or I guess it's Jordan and a sixth. They got the graphic wrong. Jordan and a sixth for a pick swap and a sixth. I'm just saying. It goes both ways. It goes both ways. We should have a friendly wager. Ooh. Chat wager, anyone? Should we have a Jordan Mason chat wager? Since we're getting spicy about it, I'm down. What are we gonna do? What's our wager? Come on. What's our wager? What is Jordan Mason rush for next season with the Vikings? Over under. Jordan Mason crosses the 1,000-point threshold. Guaranteed 49er fans are going to look back at that trade and say, we traded him for what? But hey, I'm the bad guy. It's fine. Exclude Graham. Which defensive tackle has the best technique in the draft? Ooh. I think that I'm a big fan of Nolan and his technique. Big fan of Harmon and his technique. I haven't watched Kenneth Grant yet. That's one guy I'm behind on. So that guy, Omar Norman Lott is another defensive tackle. I like him. Darius Alexander, Toledo. That's another guy I think is pretty technically sound. From the defensive tackle position, TJ Sanders, very technically sound. Aeneas Peebles has got some solid technique. He really does. Peebles is mad underrated because he's small, but Peebles is he wins with a lot of technique. Like his spin move is deadly. So there's some. I also agree. Jamari Caldwell is a sleeper. He is absolutely a sleeper. He's a squatty body. He's a coffee can with legs. But not bad. Not bad. Oh, we're setting the over under on 600 all purpose yards for Jordan Mason next year. Oh, I'm smashing over. I'm smashing over. Let's take that bet. What are we betting? What are we betting? Starbucks gift card? What do what are we betting? I would bet. I know they still have Aaron Jones. I know Aaron Jones very well. Um all purpose. What are we going? Let's do a $10 Starbucks gift card. If he goes over, you guys have to send me Starbucks gift cards or just send me super chats. If not, if you guys are right, you send you let me know, remind me at the end of the year, and I will send you Starbucks gift cards. If he goes under, the beard is gone. Yeah, right. My kids would be so terrified if I shaved my beard. They've never seen me without a beard ever. None of them. They would freak out. I think I would freak out. Oh, we got one bet. 1, 2, 2 bets. All right. Remember, Invader and who was the other one? Invader and Joe Griffin. Someone mark this down and remember it. I'm taking the over on Jordan Mason. Jordan Mason over 600 all-purpose yards next year. You guys are taking the under. He said, I bet it's gonna be oh, you guys are funny. Someone remember this. If I lose, I will gladly send you. I'll just send you $10 gift card to whatever you want. Doesn't matter. $10 gift card is yours. So I'm going over. I'm going over 600 all-purpose yards. Invaders under. I saw it was someone keep notes. We got to come back to this for sure. I'm logging this. I have a ton of Jordan Mason stock in Dynasty, so I'll be all over his stats. So I'll know. I'll definitely know. He said, "I just want a signed rookie." Maybe we'll see. Maybe we'll get creative. 200 on the over. Ooh, Larry. All right. Okay, there we go. There's some over love. Oh, we got some over love. Okay. So not everyone's on the undercard. So we'll see. Yeah, I'll be at camp for sure. We'll have to handshake bet this to confirm it and lock it in. Hey, we can see, this is the beauty. We can disagree, we still get along. We can disagree, still get along. Clip it. Remember it. I'll pay up. I'll pay up on chat if I take the L. I'm only counting 2 though. Invader and Joe, was it? Invader, yeah, Joe. Invader and Joe are the Under Kings. I'm going over. We'll see how it goes. But appreciate you guys on this Friday. We got a season-long future bet in the works. Who'd I pick? I picked Duke. I picked Duke to go all the way. My bracket is definitely not perfect anymore. But I picked the Dookie Bears to go all the way. Smash that like button on the way out. I didn't watch a single minute of college basketball this year, so I went in blind, and I'm all right with it. We'll see how it goes. Thankfully, I didn't put any money down, so I'm not stressing anything. So I appreciate everyone. I'm going to get out of here for now. Grab your cookies on the way out. Let's see who's going to win March Madness this today, right? There's some games going on today. So appreciate y'all. I'm out of here for now. Peace. Smash that like button if you haven't already. Love to see you.